ladies and gentlemen, friends and rivals. We're here a day early as we introduce some new content. One might say a whole new sidecast to the Game Table Podcast. With me today is my ever faithful, never contradictory friend, Ian.
That's me.
And my new, well, not new to me, but my surveyor of the dark web, finder of all things drama related, my sister-in-law, my dungeon master, Kalee.
I was wondering what my accolades were going to be.
Yeah, we could keep going
and
if
you
you'd
just
like.
sent me to the dark web.
Whoa.
So,
The underworld.
yeah, hi. A new person, new voice. What's happening? I'm Kalee, your upcoming host for some new content for the Game Table Podcast. This is Table Topics, where we're going to take stories from Reddit, maybe elsewhere on the dark web, and they have to do with the tabletop gaming world. We're bringing them to you, and we're going to react and give our advice, give our opinions, and you can either just listen to that and relate, or you can take it back to your game table for applications in the future.
I love that. I'm excited.
I am too, and I really like that we're going to have a space here on our podcast where it's not just talking about the games themselves, but other things that happen at the table. Because as Ian and I have mentioned many times, we are all about getting everybody around the table and having a good time. And sometimes we have to navigate how not to have a good time so that we can have a good time.
Yeah,
That's why we're here.
it's an inherently social activity that you do with your friends or your family or your significant other, whoever, your kids. And there's a lot that comes with that, because there's a lot that comes with those social groups, and there's a lot that comes with a competitive setting. So I think having that conversation and talking about it can help all of our game tables to improve and be more enjoyable.
For sure. So talk us through this. What does this look like?
So this is going to be, as you said, me surfing the internet, high octane action.
Wow.
High octane.
And finding the stories that people have posted where they're either asking a question, like, of course, as is popular on Reddit, like, am I the a-hole?
Yeah.
Which we're going to do some editing for the vocabulary for our listeners. But either those stories that pose that question, like, did I behave correctly in this situation? And then other stories of like, wow, this wild thing happened and what do I do? We've got stories of some real sore losers. We've got stories of some people that need to just stop winning. They're just victorious all the time.
That's
and it's a real problem.
Yeah.
It's always you.
Always.
We've got cheaters.
Also.
Caught or not caught, which is interesting.
Fantastic. Love that.
So there's some confessionals going on.
I've got some confessionals.
Because obviously they're confessing to the crime if they didn't get caught.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
All right.
leads into like, did I do the wrong thing?
By cheating?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, you did.
Listen, so people have to ask.
We can answer that question very quickly and move on.
We're here to help.
Yeah. So I'll bring those. It will be me and another host. It's going to vary from time to time. Your first couple episodes are going to be with the lovely Ashley. And we'll just react. We'll give our 2 cents. We have our own anecdotes. Sometimes we'll make recommendations for different types of games, ways to change it up. There's one coming where significant other can't seem to operate within a team in a cooperative situation.
Okay.
They're a little bit addicted to chaos.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, just don't make them play one-on-one games where they can do what they want.
I'm very intrigued because I feel like we talk about certain situations off air.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's much more casual, but like I've seen some of the topics already.
Yeah.
And I
Well, I
can
haven't. I'm
just,
saying yes as in I know where you're going with this.
I just can feel myself boiling over with opinion.
Oh, no.
And so I'm curious to see how y'all handle that.
I'm not boiling over yet, but we'll see what happens.
So we're giving all that energy a place to go.
Yeah.
And
I
then
love
we're
that.
recording it and giving it
Wow.
back
And
to
then
our
just
listeners.
sending it back into the dark web.
Yeah.
And then a podcast is born. Okay, so that's the format.
Mm-hmm.
But tell me this.
Mm-hmm.
What's your inspiration behind doing this?
My inspiration, tied to my accolade from earlier, is
The dark web.
is I'm a huge fan of this genre. I'm listening all the time. And I was listening to one of my favorites, and he happened to cover a couple of stories that had to do with board gaming. And it was kind of on the fringe, but it was enough that I was like, oh, this is specific to a hobby that myself and my family and, you know, other friends have. And that would be kind of cool. So I took a dive to see how much of it's truly out there and if it is actually entertaining. And the conclusion that I've come to is that yes, it is. And that especially as the game table covers games and covers games in different settings, you have, you know, your two tops, you have your games with kids, you have your regular, more intense games. And looking at those different situations and talking about it can give you tools or experience or advice to take the next time you're in those situations in real life. And I think there's some benefit to that. And also, it's just really interesting.
Yeah.
At least for me, I find it very interesting.
Yeah, no, I think overall the concept would allow for people to honestly feel more open to in these situations of like, wow, that happens to other people. That's crazy.
And in addition to that, I'll say, since I've been on it now, compiling and saving for episodes, people need to feel validated in their boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
If you know you're a person that doesn't like an intense board game, have a plan.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, and be ready to speak that and feel validated that, like, you don't want to do that. As well as somebody that is really into things and is really competitive might need to hear the experience from someone
Mm-hmm.
on the other side who's like, my second cousin at Thanksgiving ruined the whole thing because they flipped the board table. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's
No, that's
valuable.
the side I need to look at. So the non-competitive side.
No, I agree. I mean, that specific instance, we've had multiple situations where either someone didn't know how to get out of it or got into it not really knowing what they were getting into. So I think there is multiple pieces of valuable information there that can be learned through conversation. And I would definitely be able to learn, because there's a lot of times I'll show games to people and to me, they're not heavy.
Mm.
I have a different scale in my head than other people do. I've played this hobby for long enough that for me, it's not that big of a deal. But there are some times, though, that it's hard for me to tell. And I think, yeah, this is easy. It should be easy to pick up and whatever. And they'll just sit there and like, I've just handed them calculus. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah. So having at least an anecdote, a story that addresses that will help you the next time you're watching someone just glaze over in real time.
Yep.
Glossed over.
I'm
Yeah.
very aware of that look.
Well, what happens if your group is just perfect and nobody ever has a breakdown or a mental breakdown or any breakdown?
Any kind of
Maybe they're
breakdown.
crying.
Ian and I are perfect.
You just get to sit and feel superior and listen to other
Oh.
people's problems.
Oh, good.
That's why I like that pitch so much.
Yeah.
This makes sense now.
And, you know, if you hear a story of somebody failing or making a wrong move and lamenting it later, you can feel sorry for that.
Yeah, that's me every time I play a game.
That's
Yeah.
very true. Even when you win.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
I'm still thinking, what in the world am I doing?
Actually, I think one of the things that's really interesting about reading Reddit stories as a whole is that you get to be sympathetic and empathetic and you get to relate to all these different people without having to be like embroiled in the issue. So like, for example, there's a story I've hinted at Jared that got him instantly fired up that was about this family that plays Root.
Okay.
And they all sort of go their separate ways between turns and like go and read books. And,
Can you imagine with Root? Not like a
That would-
silly card game.
that
This
would-
is an engaged game.
That would take a while.
Yeah, that was the complaint, was that it
It
takes
took 6
like
hours?
9 hours.
Yeah. Ooh.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah.
All right, first hot take.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Kalee. If you need to get up from the table to go read a book, you don't need to play a board game right now. That's my hot take.
Yeah. I think in general, 2 hobbies at the same time should be mixed.
Yeah.
Should not be mixed.
I just don't think that's a good idea for anybody's sake. There's no party benefits from those 2 specific ones being combined.
So the setting of that one specifically was family vacation as well.
This is
and
just
it being
bad
a
story.
tradition that they play Root.
Okay.
But I guess because people took so long on their turns, you would get used to
reading a book.
and just like expand the problem exponentially.
See, like, this is something that has happened to me. And in this scenario, I'd be like, okay, we're done.
No shot. You've had someone get up from the table and go read a book between turns.
I'm not going to say who, but yes.
Ian, I would be livid. I absolutely would lose my mind.
I mean, it was a casual game. But
no.
Yeah.
No chance.
This has happened 100%. And in that scenario, it's like, okay, well, we're going to move on now.
You guys, this is what I'm talking about, Ian. Like, it's just this boiling over of like this opinion that needs to vomit out of me
The book thing
now.
is not a good topic for Jared.
I imagine I could get heated about a lot of these.
No, I think this one's the one.
That's the only one.
Well, let's hold that feeling
There you go.
and then
Hold
cash it in immediately.
Okay, great.
Because
I'm
we're
good at
gonna, I think the best way to tell your listeners what this is gonna be like is just do it.
Sure. We're the guinea pigs.
Well, I have tailored for you some shorter stories that'll be in my regular episodes, but heated or apply to a general problem or general topic. So in future episodes, I'll do longer stories that are focused. But this, we're gonna bounce around a little bit.
Okay.
And we're gonna start spicy.
Oh,
I'm already ready.
the most spicy.
So I've got two stories. They both come from r/unpopular opinion.
Okay.
So you can know if you come in hot, it's okay.
All right.
But most people are.
Ah,
Very on brand.
Okay.
I feel like we're
Okay.
about to play a game. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it feels like.
that's what
right
it feels like. So.
Well, we're in the right place. We're at a
We
game
have a table.
Yeah.
now. Oh, perfect.
Okay, so I'm going to read 2 back to back.
Okay.
You can have short reactions to the first one, but let me get to the second one because, frankly, the second writer, he's got an opinion. And I have to respect it because I love the way he wrote it.
Okay.
So I'm a
excited.
little bit
This is gonna
biased.
be great.
So here's the first one. r/unpopular opinion. Board games are universally not fun. No one actually enjoys board games other than nerds who have spent a ton of time playing them and want to showcase their superiority. Most of the time, you spend more time arguing about rules rather than playing. In addition to that, they almost always end up in an argument. No one likes them. No one wants to play. They suck. Stop asking. That's that opinion.
Somebody had a really bad experience.
I think it was like a whole weekend of bad experiences.
They have more than one bad
Yeah.
experience.
It's just so you guys are both nerds that want to showcase your superiority.
Absolutely.
Is what that person has to say.
I might own that. Not the superiority part, but definitely a nerd.
I mean, I'm bad at board games, so I don't know what you're talking about.
So this one, it follows that same idea.
Okay.
Also from r/unpopular opinion. I'm going to have to change some of his language.
Yeah, that's
It's
okay.
very strong. Coercing your guests to play board games at a party is a bad move. We all have been here before. We are chilling at a party and having a good time, all doing our own things at our own levels of comfort, when someone comes out and announces that we are all going to play a board game. Who is this we? It's already taken me 2 drinks to feel comfortable talking to people I don't know. What makes you think everyone wants to play your game? Every single time I've been browbeaten into playing or guilt-tripped into it. Highly annoying to me. I was already having fun. What makes you think this will enrich everyone else's time? This goes for any group activity, really, Just let your partygoers enjoy themselves and stop trying to force people into a 3-hour-long game of Monopoly.
So,
Wow.
I just love the who is this we?
Yeah, who's the we?
I did not put myself in the we.
I don't like, in general, to make people feel uncomfortable in that scenario. So I don't know if I would force anybody to do anything. But I do think if you come over to my house, there's an expectation that a game might be played. So I think it kind of goes two-handed here.
yeah.
So,
That's interesting you say that.
and then Monopoly.
Well, so that's a separate.
Yeah,
That's separate.
we'll get to that.
I feel like we got to break that apart a little bit. It's interesting because for me, I get sensitive to the fact that I'm known as the game guy.
Yeah.
And so I will typically bring games with me wherever I go.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I've got a wall of games here at my house.
Right.
But I try very hard not to overly push to say, okay, we're going to play a game. Like if someone else is like, hey, are we going to play a game? Then absolutely, I will jump in and do that. But I try to be very sensitive to that because
we're going to play a game now, I don't think I will never be uttered out of my mouth.
No.
As we as a whole are forced into this cult activity.
Yeah.
So I understand. I may relate to that because I would say that I have been in a situation where I have been forced to play a game, and that was not a good experience. Mainly because I feel like, and you might feel this way, is that when other people teach games, I just don't think it's being done very well. So
there are times.
back to the superiority of the nerd.
Exactly. So I will relate myself to the superiority situation there.
Yeah.
It's such a delicate, fine balance that done in the wrong way can have somebody feeling like these scenarios. If you are in a situation and you present it that everybody's playing and you don't really have a choice, and then you force them to play a very long experience, this is how people feel, and they're unhappy. And that's very unfortunate. Whew.
So, okay, it's all about hot takes, right? And about calling stuff out, as the way we see it. So I'm just going to put this on the table, and I think those listening, the three of us here at the table, I think all of us understand this. In tabletop gaming as a whole, we attract socially awkward people.
Yeah.
It just is that.
Yeah. Exactly.
We are just a conglomerate of mostly awkward people.
Right.
So then you shove all of them together in one house.
In one house.
And you're we're going to sit.
That's one. You're step one.
At one table.
That's hard to do.
You
got them all into one place.
Right. So think about the beauty of that.
Yeah.
Of getting these people who are terrified of each other to socialize and come together to join around the table.
Yeah.
But it does lead to some very awkward, some very not as polished responses we're going to play a game now.
Right.
Instead of maybe a different way that could be said.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's maliciously done, the reader or the writer is implying. I think it could very much just be
not been.
It's just how it came out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I grew up in a family of people who were very indecisive about what we're gonna do next.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to be hey, we're just gonna do this now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in any kind of ill intent. It was just somebody's got to guide the train. So
no, that's a fair point. Is that you're gathering a group of people in a lot of these scenarios that are awkward, and they may or may not want to be there, and then they definitely may or may not want to be playing a game. So
yeah, and you mentioned about, I know within 45 seconds of a rules teach if this is going to be a disaster or not.
Absolutely.
and again, it is hard to teach a game. If you have never done it before, if you're new to doing it, it is not. You have to learn how you function in a teach, how you communicate to everybody else at the table so that they understand, and how they can absorb things quickly, because nobody wants to be listening to rules for 20 minutes.
No.
So add that on to the complexity factor of these socially awkward people, and you've got a
You're creating a
very interesting
scenario
situation.
of chaos.
You are.
See, I think this is interesting because you guys have gone down a route that is very valid. But I think the other part of the problem here is that most people outside of your regular listeners have 3 games.
Yes.
They have Monopoly, they have Apples to Apples, they might have Catan. Like, you're not bringing something to the table that is going to pep everybody up and is going to be fun. Like, if I'm at a family get together and a great aunt's like, let's all play a board game, and then all she has is Candyland and Monopoly,
Skippo.
Have this reaction. Very valid reaction, you know? So I think if this was someone that had been exposed to more fun things, he might have a different opinion.
No, I agree. I mean, the challenge is when you're in a group that hasn't played a lot of games, you know, if you're introducing something, and I guess in this case they played Monopoly with a party. I'm trying to understand exactly what they played.
I don't know what they played. They referenced Monopoly.
Referencing Monopoly for 3 hours, but I'm gathering that maybe that's not exactly what they played in this group setting, which maybe they did, and that sucks.
Does.
I would say though, no, in these scenarios that I have either contributed to this or been a part of a scenario where, yes, you have a group of people that don't know how to play. They haven't played a lot of games. And when you don't play a lot of games, it's like anything in life. Like gaming, you get better at learning games as you play and learn more games.
Yeah.
And like Jared and I have learned so many games, hundreds and hundreds of games at this point. Like,
and there's only so many different ways to like make a rule. Yeah. Like eventually you start to see patterns.
Yeah, you see patterns, so you're like, okay, that makes sense on how that works. But if for somebody that has no idea, and when you're in these scenarios, it's really difficult because those people, they don't have a great attention span. If in a scenario that I'm seeing is like, don't want to learn a bunch of rules. They want it to be fun. And a lot of people like it to be quick. And if that is the opposite of what this scenario sounded like, it is the absolute opposite of all that. It's long, I didn't want to do it, it wasn't fun, and it was too challenging or whatever. That's a recipe for disaster. I mean,
I don't really know what to do about it though. I mean, obviously especially people that don't know me as well, I will share that I'm a board gamer and play tabletop games because I want to spread this hobby because I think it's a lot of fun and it does bring people together. But if I just talk to the average Joe, they'll be like, oh, I don't want to play a game for 3 hours without, like, I don't have to say anything else.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do about that other than continue to push back and say, well, there's a lot of games that aren't 3 hours.
Yeah.
I've got games that take 10 minutes. I've got games that I can show you in less than an hour. There's a variety of different things, and I'll try to show them some of them to be like, you know, what are you interested in? That's what I always start with new people. Yeah. I don't ever ask them what they want to play.
No.
I ask them what they are interested in life.
Yeah. And
then through that, I can pull a game that speaks to that.
Yeah.
My regular game group, I have a lot of the same people, but at times I've just sent a text out to like our entire church and be like, hey, I'm having a game day. Come on over. I think I had like 15 people say, hey, I'll stop by at some point. Well, I have now 8-9 people at the house. 4 are part of my regular gaming group. The other 4 or 5 have probably never touched a game other than like Life or Monopoly, and probably not even played it a lot. And so in these scenarios, like you're saying, what do you like? What's your attention span? Because I've had a bad experience. I've had this experience where they're just like not focused. They're on their phone and it's just like, it's a mess and it's not fun for anybody. It takes making that mistake a couple times to learn from it and say, okay, now if I'm ever in that scenario again, I know what game I'm going to pick out. And here's my hot take. I don't think people are given the benefit of the doubt, especially when it comes to these scenarios in a party. In my opinion, the person that's hosting the party and forcing we to play something, I don't know if they're given the benefit of the doubt is that maybe they were just trying to have everybody meet each other and have a good time in this group activity. Because that's what I would do in that scenario. I was like, we have like these kind of groups kind of off in the corners and they're not, we need to, as a group, I would say like, why don't we play something to have everybody mesh together? And I don't know if there's in general enough forgiveness for the mistake that was made at one event, and maybe give it another try would be my hot take.
I'm going to go ahead and move on.
Yeah.
But I'm going to summarize the comments for us because he did post an edit. The comments that agree with him, the common theme seems to be like insecurity.
Okay.
Like a lot of people are saying the person who suggests it is very good at it and uses it to show how good they are versus when they start explaining, I zone out. Like I lose it immediately. So they're like, other people do it to feel smart. It makes me feel dumb. That's the summary of the people that agree. People who give advice are saying like, speak up. Some of the things you said, like volunteer how much time you're willing to put into it.
Yeah.
Or volunteer, like you're willing to play, but it's not your preference. Like just be honest that way.
I think those are all fair. It's challenging based on the person because there's so many different hosts. I have seen some act like this. Is that let's play a game that I know I'm just going to beat you down at. That's kind of just a bad.
That's its own.
That's
monster.
It's just not appropriate. If you love games, then you wouldn't do that. Like if you love playing games with other people and having everybody enjoy the experience and not just yourself, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I agree.
So here's his edit, and it says, "Whoa, thanks for all the upvotes and awards. This is the most heated opinion I have ever posted."
Oh my God.
True accolades.
Yeah. So
what a hot take.
this is the most heated opinion I have ever posted. Kudos to the people who actually get it. Sometimes it feels like too much peer pressure and a very selfish host who isn't treating their guests like guests, but more of a captive audience. Many people can take no for an answer. I am complaining about people who can't. Pressure sucks in these situations. Some people gang up and try to guilt you into playing.
Man, I'm sorry if we ever hurt that guy.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I'm more interested in growing this hobby than I am at winning a board game.
Absolutely.
100%.
I want people to have fun.
For sure.
Yeah, somebody did him dirty. Golly, man.
Got a scar.
I want to very quickly address your first person who said that it's only for nerds.
Oh, yes, right.
Daisy Ridley, Will Wheaton, Rich Summer, Thomas Middleich, Patrick Stewart, the Patrick Stewart, Kristen Bell, Dax Shepard. I can keep going.
What is this list?
Joe, these are all people
who
that
board
have been confirmed to play board games.
Oh, that doesn't mean they like them.
Oh, they do.
Well, you don't know that. Does it say that?
Play a game with Patrick Stewart.
That would be pretty.
And if I switch slightly out of board gaming over into D&D, Vin Diesel, go ahead and call Vin Diesel a nerd with no other accolades behind him.
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert, Deborah Ann Wall, Jon Favreau, who is a nerd, but he's also...
He is a nerd, but he is
Stephen
incredibly...
Colbert is also a huge nerd.
I mean, yeah, but they're
saying,
incredibly successful and something not entirely
Joseph
related.
Gordon-Levitt, Dwayne Johnson has been confirmed.
Oh. Well, Jared, you just named names, so you've proven nothing.
Let's see.
There is nobody that loves games.
Oh, the account is deleted. We can't even call them out.
No, we don't.
I'm just
deleted
saying,
user.
Yeah.
Jared
I don't
calls you out.
disagree that there are a lot of nerds in this hobby. In fact, this hobby's full of them.
Absolutely.
But there are also cool people in this hobby too.
That's what we say as the nerds. We're cool. We're so cool.
Fine. We're
Best
all just nerds that all have our own weird thing about being superior.
Yep.
That's why we can't get along at the
Here's
table.
the thing, is that we can disagree all day, but we can't prove it. There's no proof. There is no proof that says that we're cool.
Patrick Stewart, come and play a game with us.
That might prove it.
Prove that you're cool.
Yeah, I mean that's if he did it. Yeah, that would be proof. But there is no proof.
You guys, if Patrick Stewart showed up at my table, I would feel cool. Come at me, deleted. Come at me.
They've already been chased off of Reddit
Yeah,
one way or
they're no
another.
longer here. They just dropped that like it was hot and
What a
then
garbage
dipped.
take.
Yeah.
All right, we can move on. I couldn't let that go.
So, we've touched on who plays board games. And we've touched on in the beginning that it's a very social activity.
Indeed.
You even gave a great examples of how to get people to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be another short post, a foray into how to get a game table going.
Okay.
This comes from r/advice. And it says, I love board games, but don't have any friends.
Welcome.
Did you hear all the celebrities that you could be theoretically friends with?
If you would like to message each celebrity individually, they may want
Since
to be
you
your
have
friend.
Patrick Stewart on speed dial.
All right. Story. Hey, all. So I love playing board games, kind of nerdy ones like Castles and Keeps, 5 Minute Dungeon, Rick and Morty card game, etc. I live in a tiny town in Ohio, and we don't have any place people meet up to play board games or cards or anything. I also don't have, any friends, and my boyfriend loathes every time I even mention a board game. Are there any alternatives, or anyone have any ideas how I can connect with people to play some dang board games? Thank you.
Yeah, I've lived at worst on the very outskirts of Nashville my entire life. So I've always had access to pretty much anything that a decent city can offer.
Right.
So I guess what I don't understand about this post is the town so small that even libraries aren't doing game nights or
No.
So then if it's that small, because I've met people in those kinds of towns, don't people know each other? Isn't that
It depends.
But what I would say as an answer to the question is, one, if you don't have any friends at all, one, to play games, there is always online mediums to play.
That's true.
There's Board Game Arena, and you can find stuff on Board Game Geek to find connections in that way. There's apps of all different kinds of games. So that's that. Talking about in-person, though, because I love in-person gaming and I don't really like playing online, is that I would find some type of group activity, either, if you're into a church or, a library group or some type of group that you can find, even if it's 5 people, 6. I mean, you only need a couple people. Find something that is bringing people together and go to those events. And
or help start it. A
or
library
start
would
it.
totally be a game.
If you have a library or, your town hall, there's so many opportunities, or your own house, but obviously you're going to have to find ways to reach out to those. But I would start by creating a relationship first. And a relationship could mean hey, what do you like? It's just meeting somebody and then saying hey, would you like to meet up once a month or whatever at my house or a designated location?
Yeah.
And play some games. Especially if you have the games, that's step one.
That's half the battle.
That's how somebody's got to have the games. So if you have games or you know somebody that does, that's it. And then from there you can start hosting either somewhere or whatever, and people will find you.
I have a couple other thoughts now that you've kind of
Did I stir?
You've painted the picture for me.
Did I paint the picture? The farm.
So I think thanks. So I think a couple other things to go along with that. One, Kalee, you told me when you still lived in Philadelphia about getting work friends together or work people together to play games. So that's another
Shout
option.
out to them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that was a really good experience for you overall.
Yeah, that was great. That's how I learned to play Dune Imperium.
Yeah.
And Spirit Island.
And Spirit Island.
Nice.
Shout out to Kyle.
Which are both big
Those are
time
great.
games.
Those are,
That's
those are great.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
It was great.
Wow, that's awesome.
I don't know that it's that different being in a big place versus being in a small place. Obviously, Philadelphia, we tried a couple of the game cafes that were there. So that's a big difference because you have a location that you can go to.
Yeah.
Where, like you said, the first part is the games being available.
Right. That does help.
But my gaming group with my office, it was just 2 guys that both found out they liked board gaming and pitched it to everybody else.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I also like board gaming. Let's do it. And we learned to do an Imperium and we went. So you can feel isolated whether you are physically or not. Especially if this is someone that feels like they don't have a lot of friends, you're just going to have to, like you suggested, joining a social group that's already happening and pitching it there. I mean, it's hard that your significant other doesn't want to play with you because that's your core group.
When you don't have any friends, it's really hard. And I feel bad. I really do. That's a tough place to start. That's the start of I just don't have any friends. And that's, I've been there. It's a tough place to be. So.
Well, and that's kind of it's kind of, she's trying to hit two birds with one stone, right? Of gathering friends and also finding people that have a similar interest.
Yeah.
So another thought that I had, not just work people, but also, I see this a lot. I'm not very good at this because I go for very different reasons, but people go to a lot of like local gaming conventions and make friends there.
Yeah.
And going to a local one works because most people there are local. And so even if you're not in the same exact spot, you meet people that are like from your area. That creates game groups. And from there, you can make friends.
And I've known people that come to a game night. They drive an hour to get there.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's not unheard of.
Yeah.
Some people are really willing to do that.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and summarize the comments because there's not a lot of them and they touch on things that you've already talked about. There's a suggestion of Board Game Arena, playing digital versions. Then there's a suggestion of starting your own event somewhere, like talking to bars, cafe owners, because they'll maybe let you just go in and set up shop. Like you touched on, already having the games is part of the thing. You also mentioned that libraries have board games and check out board games. And so that's a suggestion that comes up here. Local library to set up a board game night. Also looking on like Facebook groups. There's a reference to meetup.com. And then there's also like go the old fashioned way and have a flyer that you're inviting people and
flyer,
see what you get.
There was a coffee shop and somebody decided they gave the coffee shop games. They brought games that they weren't playing and put them in and allowed them, anybody to play.
Planted the seed.
Yeah, they planted the seed. And then that was how I actually learned to play more than just Monopoly, is my cousin invited me to that event where somebody just started bringing games to this place. That's where I played like some of the heavier games that I ever started. That was the beginning of my journey. But yeah, somebody just started planting games and they're like, hey, we'll do once a month.
Yeah.
So people get into the games that way.
Disclaimer, of course, it's a dangerous world. Careful who you meet from online.
Please. Yeah.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because it is dangerous. But I'm thinking about, the first time that we met our first listeners and they were strangers.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know who I'm inviting to my home. Like, they could be anybody.
Exactly.
But it turned out to be a great experience.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I met Jared, I was terrified. So
most people are.
Well, let's pivot back and look at the opposite opinions that we started with. So this is also from r/unpopular opinions. So they're dueling opinions here in as far as what's most popular. It says board games 9 times out of 10 improve the quality of a party.
Just a blanket.
It goes on, but that's the title.
Okay.
I know a lot of people really don't like when people bust out board games at parties, but personally, I think they improve everyone's experience, as long as they don't start off irritated by the fact that board games were brought out. I feel like this person knows the other story.
They've heard the other story.
Yeah, that's my little headcanon. She says, I'm not talking about really big board games with complicated rules. I'm talking about games like Jenga, Code Words, Silver Amulet, Cards Against Humanity, and Pick Your Poison. Usually they can be accompanied by talking, drinking, and jokes. If you don't want to talk at a party, great. Grab a board game. People won't judge you for not talking. If you do want to talk, great. The board games are a great way of finding common ground and are great to start a fun, competitive vibe for the night. Most board games aren't super complicated, and if the board game the person brought out is super complicated, then the person who brought it out should be ashamed of themselves, especially if the party isn't full of a bunch of regular gamers. One of the things I see people saying online is, God, I hate when people bring out board games. I hate board games. When really they just hate complicated board games. I will stand by this until the day I die. Board games are great, especially at parties.
I feel ashamed.
That's good.
No, I think it's, to me, this person likes a particular kind of game because they like party games.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they like.
Jenga, Code Words,
like
Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah, everything they listed is a party game, and that's fine. I think that has the potential to enhance a party. I'm not going to say that it's a guarantee 90% of the time it works every time kind of thing.
No.
But to tell me or somebody,
How dare you?
that if I were to suggest something like, even if I suggested something on the weight of like Catan,
Or Wingspan.
and they're like, you should be ashamed of yourself. I don't know, man. If there's no room at a party for anything heavier than Cards Against Humanity, that to me does not sound like an enhancing experience. So I can't like blanket statement. I don't think blanket statementing it.
I don't think every party needs to have a board game. I don't think that's necessary.
No. And this is coming from two guys that have walls of games.
Yeah, I don't think every party needs to have a game. But I mean, I know a lot of people that do really like all of those party games that aren't into other games, and
sure, but I
maybe
also
that's
know
who this is, and
you
that's
and I
totally
know
fine.
a lot of gamers that if they were all together and we pulled out Cards Against Humanity,
Yeah.
the party would be over. That'd be the end of the night.
Yeah. Anything.
I think if I like tried really hard to get to the motivation behind what she's saying, or he or whoever it is, I think that they are trying to say there's a time and a place. And clearly they've been hit with somebody tried to pull out a game that was too heavy. And they're like, no, you're ruining it.
Yeah.
You're going to make everybody hate board games.
No,
And
we got to play code names.
those are fine. But I don't know. I think it's a crazy take.
No, it is a crazy take.
My headcanon is that these two people are at the same party.
They
100%.
must be. They must know each other.
Yeah.
Brother and sister.
They have to be.
Yeah.
They got to know each other. Or went to
Um,
the same party. I don't know.
I think one of the sort of unspoken factors in here that relates back to the second story's take is alcohol. Because I think all of the things that she named are arguably enhanced by alcohol.
Right.
Or at least like party games in general tend to be like there's more opinions involved, there's more luck involved, there's
Especially
not a
Cards
bunch
Against
of rules. Whereas if we think back to the insecurity of the people that were agreeing with the other guy,
Yeah.
Mhm.
the other poster, about feeling dumb or whatever, you've got 3 drinks in you.
Yeah.
You
Not
can't
thought.
play a complicated game
No.
with a lot of rules. So I think those 2 posters, maybe all 3 of those posters, are a different vibe.
Yeah.
And this person is saying, hey, these types of games enhance that vibe, and I'm cool with that.
For sure.
So, if you play board games with groups of people that love board games, if you have friends to get to play board games with you, you can have different experiences than what we've read about so far. You get good stories. So this is a good story. This comes from r/board games. The title is, My Gaming Group Surprised Me with a Gift. I am floored right now. I've been hosting a monthly game night at my house for just over 2 years. It has been really cool to see so many new people introduced to the hobby and friendships being formed over a shared table. Well, for Christmas this year, they all pitched in together to buy me Foundations of Rome for opening up my home to them.
Well,
This weekend was our first game night since Christmas. They gave it to me then. They initially gave me the solo expansion for Foundations, and I had to tell them that it was very kind, but I don't have the base game. Then they came around the corner with the big box. I'm still in shock. I'm just feeling very grateful for my local group and friends in my life. Just had to brag about them.
Oh,
Aw.
we're going to cry now.
no, I mean, but like seriously, even before you got to the gift giving part, the whole I've been doing this for 2 years
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
like established all these friendships, like that's just so cool. And it's every time I get people around the table, that's the goal, is to establish those long-term relationships. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've had people, at events that either I just don't see regularly anymore, but they still come to the game nights, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
When the group is healthy, like this scenario,
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody enjoys being around each other and enjoying that time together, playing a shared interest and having shared interest in playing a game together. I think that's an incredible experience that the first people that we talked about did not have, and I really wish they would, because it is something special.
And I will caveat too, like once you get to that somewhat established place. Like Ian and I are very competitive people.
Yeah.
Like we're not just moderating game nights and not playing. Like,
especially with the same group over and over again.
I was thinking, like Kalee, we played a game tonight, and
we were giving her a hard time.
We were giving Kalee a hard time, but also just watching the whole time. Like I'm very impressed with Kalee as a gamer because Kalee does this really interesting combination of you can tell how fast she's picked up the game, and you mentioned tonight that you have picked up from me that competitive edge of we're not just here to hang out, and we're here to both hang out and be competitive. I love that. I love where we can get to a space where we're all coming together with the understanding that we all really care about each other, and we're also like trying to better each other through this thing.
That's a good point.
And we didn't always have that. Like there were times where we had to like help people through games because they were still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But, and not just, I mean, Kaylee's always been really good at games. I'm not trying to say that.
She smokes me in every game that we play.
I know.
So I don't think I've ever beaten you.
It's actually kind of interesting. I feel like I keep surrounding myself with smarter and smarter people, and I'm going to not win a lot as we keep moving forward.
No, I definitely don't win as much as I used to. That's just how it is.
I mean, you know, Ian and I have the luxury of playing together, and so we can be really competitive with one another. I mean, we give each other, Kalee witnessed it tonight, we give each other crap all the time.
Yeah. I would say that I agree. Yeah, when I am having the same group, everybody's comfortable being competitive, but we all, love everybody at the table and it's fun. And having a competitive game, even if you're not like the most competitive in the world, like a tight game makes it fun for everybody. You have that tension of like, okay, well, I have a chance to win, and that's what we're having fun to do.
Even if that's not your goal. Like I'm thinking about, we saw the ladies at Funky Town last year that played Everdell.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Like the game that they play. And they just, they you could tell that they were into it and they were competitive, but it wasn't like this in your face competitiveness. It was just like, we're all here to have a good time and we really know this game. So like whatever your table's motivation is, that's totally cool. Like it doesn't have to be just hardcore competitiveness like you and I like. It goes beyond the game. It's learning to trust the people at the table. Because like there have been times where you and I have been absolute butts to each other. Not just playing around, like actually been butts.
Yeah.
And
it was me.
It was you the last time. But
the last couple times.
But we walked it off and came back together and we're still all good. Like it's all it's all good because we trust each other.
Right.
And we've put in that work.
I'll go back a little bit since you brought up like my play style, Jared. And this is going to come up for the listeners as we have different hosts. You're going to hear different perspectives. My threshold for sensitivity and competition is far lower than y'all two's. I'm positive. But what I think is very cool when you're at a table together that works and you're comfortable with the other people is like you could feel me like cooking when I was over there. Like when I was getting ready to take victory point cards or whatever.
Oh
like,
yeah, I know.
And that's very cool to like trade that back and forth because I was anxious about you beating me to the one for the gems.
Don't worry.
And
never
like so when you do see someone line it up and just knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
It is.
And it's okay to lose because you're like, respect.
Yeah, when somebody reels in the 3 victory point cards at the end of a game that you just played. Yes, it is. And
I still only took it by 1 single point.
You did? Not to me.
Crazy.
I was the very much loser. But no, which happens every time I play a game with you. You are excellent at games. It's awesome to watch. And like you're saying, when I see somebody pull off like an insane combo, or you're like, everybody's playing a different game all within the same game. I'm like, I'm focused in at this one aspect, and then somebody sneaks in and pulls off a triple combo on some other side of the board. You're just not looking at. You're like, man, that was really
insane.
Nice. That was awesome. And so, maybe I can do that next time.
Yeah.
Or I can combo something like similar.
Well, I feel like we've run a good gamut of stories and getting a little taste for what might be coming in the future.
Lots more.
Yeah, lots more. Longer, more dramatic.
Whoa.
Maybe some fights.
Oh my. I'm gonna have to tune into that.
Some competition.
I'm gonna submit a Reddit post about Ian.
Oh, please do. Speaking of,
Oh no.
please join us on the Game Table Podcast Discord. Send me your stories.
Yeah. If you're part of my group and submit, if you could just make it anonymous, maybe.
Or post your own story on Reddit, and then if it happens to be heard, come to the Discord and tell us.
And just don't put my name in it. Or
Yeah.
you could, and then she'll find it, and it'll be all over.
Yeah.
What if it's a good story like what we finished with?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
please. Both.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Then put my name in it.
That's what- yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That would be cute sometime in the future to do like just
Just a whole.
host submitted stories.
There won't be any.
Wow.
Shame.
Yeah.
Shame.
Easy.
I am looking forward to the longer and specific topics in future episodes.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this entire journey, joining you here at the game table. To all of you, good luck in your next game. And we'll see you next week with the first full episode
Whoa.
of Table Topics.
That's so exciting.
I'm really excited.